Hi, I'm David Brother with Brother Fishing Team. Today I'm going to do gag grouper secrets. So we're going to talk all you need about gag groupers. You can catch big, quality gags anytime you go out there and consistently, because gag is about to open for me June 1st, and I know on the other side of the coast, the Atlantic, it's already open. So make sure you're getting out there and you're getting on those gag grouper, because they're really great eating fish. They taste really good. Maybe later on I'll have a video on how to cook them, because I know how to really cook them really good. I'll tell you a quick recipe right now. You just put a little bit of Old Bay on them, the regular seasoning, some lemon, and then cut up some strawberries and some onions, and you can make like a fish taco. You could grill them in the pan, put some butter on the fish too. You can put them in the oven, you could grill them on the grill. So make sure you get out on those gag grouper. And also you can fry them too, which is another really good way too. And also I have a video coming out how to clean them. That won't be right now because I can't keep them yet, but that'll be in June or July whenever I get to go out again. So first of all, let's talk about where you're going to find these grouper. You're going to find these grouper around wrecks, reefs, hard bottom areas, ledges, rock piles, a lot of places that really just want to look for the hard bottom and the good bottom has at least a little bit of bait on it. That way you know there's some forage for them to get. And also you're going to find out what depth they're around. So certain places might be at different depths. So in the wintertime they'll come closer to shore, and in the summer they're in deeper water. So you gotta start the season in deeper water. And gag grouper generally bite better in the months ending with birth. So September, October, November, December. Okay, those 4 months are the best months for gags. So one way you can find out where the grouper are is by simply calling a local party boat and asking, hey, where are you guys catching grouper? Or they're not gonna give you the exact spot, but how far are you guys going to catch grouper on this one? Which charter should I take? And how deep is it? And they're normally pretty friendly with you and upfront with you. So just call a local party boat or charter boat, and they'll hook you up with some good information. And if you just be nice and genuine with them, they'll be good with you. So that's where you'll find them. Now let's talk about the bait. You want to have good bait. You want to have like some pinfish, cigar minnows, mullet, blue runner, Spanish sardines, lizard fish. I mean, not lizard fish. I never tried lizard fish. I mean sand perch, which is something you catch when you catch lizard fish. Grunts, those are all really good grouper baits. Also, grunt bottom is good bottom for grouper and generally. So keep that in mind. So you're going to want to have these baits. You're going to want to keep them in a bait pen. That way you don't have to waste time out there. Because it's not so much time, but you want to be able to go out there and just start fishing right away rather than catch bait. Even though bait can be fun to catch. But if you go back from your trip and you have extra bait, make sure to put it in a bait pen. I would recommend D&B Bait Pen, because that way you're not using it, you just collapse it down. Or if you want to travel, like say you want to go from here to the Keys, or you want to go from the Keys to Miami, you can just put your boat at a marina. You can have your collapsible bait pen, you can travel with it. I'll leave that link below in the description. If you want a custom one, make sure to email them at dbbaitpens@gmail.com, and they will be able to make you a custom collapsible bait pen. And I'll leave that link below in the description, as well as where you can buy a bait pen. So we talked about the bait. You want to keep bait in your bait pen before you go out. That way you can go out. Or you could just catch it on the way out there. Just sabiki them up. You could even throw a cast net. You can get some thread fins and some pilchards. So there's really a lot of baits you can use for grouper. But sometimes the best bait is when you get to the spot, you drop your sabiki down. Normally I like to use like a size 6. Drop it down on your spot and sabiki up the bait around your spot or on your spot. Because that's normally what they're feeding on. They might be keyed in on that. So you really want to match the hatch. So now let's talk about some tactics you can use for grouper. So any of these tactics, you're going to want to use heavier line. You're going to want to have a good drag ratio, a good drag, a really strong tight drag. Make sure you have fresh line too, that way you're not getting broken off as easily, because you really want to eliminate angler error as much as you can. Tackle failures, you want to really limit those, that way you can be more successful. So you want to use a heavier rod, a really strong, heavy rod. That way it won't bend as much, but it's still going to bend, because these fish are really powerful. These gag groupers are super, super duper powerful. They can bend hooks. They can get you in the ledges. They can cut you off. So make sure you're using that. So my number one tip, if you're going to go after gags, is anchor. Make sure you anchor for them. That's my favorite way to do it. If you haven't done it, at least try it. You can drift for them. It's not as good. And you can also troll for them, which is another way I like to go after them. So let's talk about trolling for grouper. You can put 2 downriggers down. You can have 2 plugs out, or even a big heavy weighted bucktail or something like that. You could even troll live baits on downrigger, but now you're risking your ball. So I like to use artificials. That way, because $20, $30 lure is not costing you as much as a $60 downrigger ball. And also another way you can do it is you can just buy really big lip plugs and you can just troll those behind your boat. I recommend starting at 3 or 4 knots And if that's not working, go up to 5 or 6 knots and just tool for grouper and find whichever speed works best. And that's a really great way to get them. And you can get them really fast because it's effective and you're trolling and you're covering a lot of ground. Now keep in mind, you may lose plugs too, so it might end up being a little bit more expensive, but it's also a really productive way to get them too. So when you're doing this, a lot of times when you're trolling, you're going to see your grouper actually pop up on the surface because they're going to bite it. They're going to be running out of their holes, jumping out of it. The boat's going to be pulling right out because your drag's locked all the way down. You're going to have no chance to get back in their holes. So a lot of times you could even use lighter leader or you could use heavier leader. I like to start out with about 40 pounds if I'm in shallower water, or if I'm in deeper water, I'll use 80 or even 100 pound. I won't go more than 100 because I never really get cut off by a grouper. The only time I'll lose anything is because my plug gets stuck on the ledge or something and I end up getting broken off because the plug got stuck. So a lot of the plugs you're going to want to use are going to be the bigger plugs, the bigger lips. Make sure they have some beads inside them, that way you'll hear some noise, and a lot of times that'll catch you a lot more fish. Yozuri makes great plugs, Rapala makes good plugs. There's a lot of great lure companies for you to use out there. So you could also use a planer too, which is another way you could do it, but I prefer a downrigger, or you could troll like the big lures, which is another way I prefer. So now let's talk about drifting. So drifting, what you're going to want to do, you're going to have your big egg weight, and you're going to have a swivel, and then maybe 20 feet, 30 feet of a 100-pound line, and then you're going to have your hook right there with your bait on it. That way when you're drifting, the idea is when you're drifting, your bait is going to be sitting right there close to the bottom, and you're just going to roll over, and it's going to create a really nice natural presentation, so you're going to be able to catch more fish like that. And then when you're normally fishing like that, you want to hook your bait either in the shoulders, or you want to hook them in the nose or the lip. So those are several ways to hook it. And then when you're anchoring, you could do either of those. I like to normally hook them in the back, or I like to hook them in the butt, like where next to the tail. That way they can swim away, they can explore a little bit, and it really creates a natural presentation, and it really does crush the grouper. So when you're anchoring, I recommend using a knocker rig, like these D&B grouper / snapper rod knocker rigs. If you're in shallower water, if there's not as much current, use this 3-ounce right here. Or if you're in deeper water where there's a lot of current, use this 8-ounce weight right here, the 8-ounce knocker rig. It's also heavier line. This one is slightly lighter. It's 100 pounds right here, and this is 80 pounds. And then they have these little beads, that way it creates the noise, it stops the noise, and it doesn't really spook the grouper as much. And then they also use these really strong crimps too. So this is really fail-proof tackle, unless you really just let them get you rocked up and you can't really do anything about it. But if you're using strong rods and all that, and you're using these rigs, you can be able to pull grouper right out pretty easily, almost 99.99% of the time. Every now and then, yes, you're going to lose some, but not as much as you would with other pre-made rigs. So these are really good rigs. These are better rigs than most people could probably end up rigging themselves. Those of you that make your own rig, no offense to that, but I actually found that these work really good because I work with D&B. I actually talk a lot with them. I'm not like trying to say that you can't catch with other rigs, but these are really good rigs. I actually helped design them, so these are really good. These are like, I guess you could say, like a professional grade of grouper rigs. So that's why they're so good, and they're really stealthy and strong too. So when you're anchoring, you're gonna want to anchor right on top of the structure. You're gonna fish on that. You're gonna fish right on top of that ledge, that reef, that shipwreck, whatever it is that you're fishing on. The hard bottom little rock pile, the ledge again. So wherever you're fishing, make sure you're right on top of them when you're anchoring. And that's another secret right there. So secret number 1 was finding the right depth and where the fish are. Number 2 was getting your key baits and making sure you have them ready, that way you can grouper fish. Number 3 was your tactic, making sure you have an effective tactic, and having an effective rig was number 4. And keep in mind, you might change when you get out there. You might think, oh wow, I can do this, this, and that, and it'll work. Now, what you're gonna want to do in earlier times, if you're in the Gulf of Mexico, on my side of the coast, in Florida, you're gonna have to go run deeper out to get those groupers. So you're gonna want to go in deeper water. Again, call the charter boats. They'll tell you where they're at. Normally, they're pretty friendly and genuine with you if you're nice to them. Don't be mean. So, and then on the other side of the coast, you're like Miami, Fort Lauderdale. It gets deep really fast, and I only have to go a couple miles out. But if there's a lot of current, it might not be a bad idea to anchor, because sometimes when you drift, if there's really like, let's say there's like 6 knots of current, your bait's not going to do so well in 6 knots of current drifting. But if it's only a couple knots of current, you could drift and it's really effective. Or you could also even troll, which is another great way to do it. But I really prefer to anchor. So if you can anchor because it's more effective. Or if you just want to look for areas and then just troll around, which is another great area to scout, especially when the season first starts. Every time you get a bite, press mark on your fish finder. Mark, mark, mark every time you get a bite. And then you can just go fish those areas, look for that ledge on your side scan, and then you'll be able to see it, mark that spot, mark that ledge, just click, tap, touch it, and mark it, and you'll be able to get right over to it, and you can anchor on it, and many times you'll be able to catch several grouper on it. So you're going to really want a sophisticated fish finder. That's number 5 secret. Have a really sophisticated fish finder that way you can zone in on those fish. You're going to be able to use your side scan, your echo. You're going to want to use your charts to your advantage. You're going to want to use everything you can to your advantage to get those fish on the right spot. So I recommend getting a really sophisticated new fish finder and a big fish finder. Make sure to go check out dbmarinespsupplies.com, where you can save up to $800 on Raymarine, Simrad, or Garmin electronics. So those are really 3 good brands too. I have 2 NSS 12 Evo 3 Simrads on my boat. So make sure to get good chart plotters, that way you can find those fish really easily, and you're saving time, and you're doing more fishing or even catching instead of hunting for them. So that's number 5. And secret number 6 is use some chum. Buy a little chum cage. You can use a chum bag, put a brick in it, drop it next to the bottom, near the bottom, and get those bait fish fired up. Those bait fish will start eating on that chum. The grouper will start to come out. They'll get really, their metabolism will get up. They're going to start feeding more actively. Drop your bait down there, and then boom, you're going to get hooked up. So now also, one thing I don't have right next to me right now is also the D&B chicken rigs. I'll leave those linked below in the description too, where you can buy those. The chicken rigs are actually really good for when you first get to the spot. They have a 2-ounce and a 3-ounce chicken rig right now that I know of. And when you first get there, drop those down. You'll be able to get some grunts, some snappers. It's really great if you have young kids. And then a lot of times, after a few minutes, you can find ooh, 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 break. It's going to break the rig. Okay? I know you don't want to break rigs. That's when you know to drop down these knocker rigs. So you might want to put like some cut pieces of shrimp or some squid on them. The grouper will bite it because you'll see the other bait fish biting it. Then the bait fish that you get from down there, or that you already have, put on one of these, drop it down, and you're going to feel doo, 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 and you're going to be hooked up. You're going to be in. You're going to have that big grouper on. So, and then sometimes they'll rock you up. So what you're going to want to do, if they rock you up, simply just put your reel in free spool, because a lot of times they go right down to that first hole they can find or wherever it is. Put it in free spool. They'll swim out. Once you see the line moving, put it back and just strike. Reel down on it really fast. Get it off the bottom, and then you'll be able to get them in the boat. A lot of the times, way easier than having to just try to yank it out of the hole. Also, sometimes you might get a red grouper, and a lot of times with red grouper, if you like if the line is tight and you play like a guitar, you thump it, it will irritate the red grouper and he'll swim right out, and you'll be able to get him right up to the boat. So that's another secret. So that was secret number 7. And so today we talked about the bait, where to go, your fish finder, the spot, the rig, your tactic, and the chumming. So that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll leave all the stuff I mentioned below in the description. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so we don't miss any future videos, and like this video if it was helpful. Thanks for watching today's video, guys, and until next time.